Wow, stories.
My 28-year-old male boyfriend told me, 23-year-old female, that we should get a prenup before we get married when he hasn't even proposed to me yet. I come from a very loving family. When I was a kid, though, we didn't have a luxurious life, but my dad made sure his children were the happiest and he worked very hard. My mom was always his biggest supporter. She married my dad when he was nothing, and today my dad came to a position where he is listed among the most elite businessmen in the city. It's all because of his hard work and my mom's support. And that's the type of marriage I want. I want a marriage where there is no question of divorce, just patience, hard work, and faith in God. My dad always told me to trust in my hard work and not have any liking or lust for money. He is the best example to show that money does not buy happiness, and hard work always pays off. I worked hard too, and by God's grace today, I'm a pilot, and so is my boyfriend. We both started our training together, so we have the same experience as well. My boyfriend believes that one day he will be a big businessman, but he doesn't really do anything to make that possible. Today, in his blind belief that one day he'll be rich, he told me that he doesn't want to lose all his money, which doesn't exist if we divorce in the future, so he wants a prenup. I told him to first propose. He said he can't until I agree to a prenup. I told him how ridiculous it was for him to think that I'm after his money, when in fact I have much more money than him. He says in the future, he'll have more. I said, let's think about it when you actually do have more money, and ended the conversation. Was I too arrogant? Should I sign the prenup? I honestly don't care for it, but the thought that I'm after his money is what hurt me. Update. So I spoke to my dad about this conversation I had with my boyfriend. Turns out, the prenup was actually my dad's idea. It seems my boyfriend discussed with my dad about expanding the logistics sector and had some really good plans. So my dad decided to let him take charge and handle logistics. Hence, a prenup would make sure things don't get ugly later on. My plan is to get married at 25 and continue flying. I don't know why my boyfriend didn't mention this conversation with my dad. I might have given an impression that my boyfriend is an idiot, but I don't mean to. He is smart and talented, but sometimes gives me half information which frustrates me. He never told me about the plans he had for the company, but only kept saying, he'll make a fortune one day. Update. Thank you for all your responses, guys. So last night was long and a miserable night, which marked the end of our relationship. I don't normally question my boyfriend, and especially if my dad is involved, I don't get involved. I trust my dad completely. He isn't what he is today, just like that. However, the fact that he hid a very important detail from me was bothering me so much, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I asked why didn't he tell me his plans? Why didn't he let me know about this deal? A little background about us, my boyfriend is the firstborn son of a religious leader in my community, and my parents always had a good impression of him, assuming he is a man of God. He has this passion and zeal to do something, but no resources. He did his master's in theoretical physics and studied about God in relation to science for years. He also loves working with cameras and has experience in the film industry as a DOP. He is a drone pilot as well. However, due to some poor investments, he lost the money he made. So he took several loans and finished his training along with me. A little about me, I'm my father's firstborn child, and I started working with him in the company when I was 15. I did it because I was interested in business. Then, at the age of 18, I started my own company. My dad wasn't really a fan of that idea given the risks involved. So in good spirit, he asked me to make it on my own, without his help. So I used my savings and loaned some money from my friends to start a business. I was also a national level athlete from ages 18 to 21. I started playing when I was 16. Female athletes have less competition in the country I live in, so I made it in 2 years. So even that helped in marketing my company since it was a sportswear line. Then I started a transportation company when I was 20. This company provided for all the oxygen cylinder and ventilator transport needs during the second wave of infection 19. I started an NGO during the first wave, and by the second wave, my team was able to provide for 70,000 oxygen cylinders and 56,000 ventilators. We also arranged for ambulance services, hospital beds, and medical bills of patients who were struggling with finances. I even did a small art-based business during Infection 19, since everyone became an artist during that time. I made around $15,000 in 3 months doing that. So overall, I saved $85,000 by the time I turned 21 and started my flight training. I cleared all my exams in 6 months and started flying. This year in January, I got my CPL. And in February, I started flying for this private charter company, doing my rating right now. I'm sorted with my savings and income, and I will be turning 24 next month. Me and my boyfriend met when I was 19 through our parents, and we started dating. I fell in love with him and confessed it to him during our flight training. We both are waiting until marriage to have intimacy, and he helped me grow a deeper spiritual connection with God. Last night I asked him as to why he hid it from me, and his response was because he felt less of a man. That being the man, he should be the one to provide and have savings. But instead, it's me having a steady income and tons of savings. He went on telling me how I'm a rich, snooty, butt-spoiled brat and run to daddy whenever I need something. He also told me that it was unfair he didn't have rich parents, and that is the only reason why he isn't rich. He expects me to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to be, since I wanted to fly, and doesn't like that I'm still working. He went on a long, very hurtful rant, invalidating all the work I did and all my achievements. He went on invalidating my sports career as well, saying I would have never made it if Daddy didn't bribe my way through, which is not true. I heard all of that in silence, and after he was done, I told him, since he thinks all my success is meaningless just because my dad helped, he shouldn't be taking my dad's help as well. I told him to make it on his own, fulfill his dreams on his own, and broke up with him. I never involved myself in relationships earlier because I was afraid of heartbreaks. I don't know what got into me when I fell in love with this one. He was my first love and my first heartbreak. I was willing to be a traditional wife for him once we got married. That is how much I loved him. But he broke me into a million pieces. I'm just a nobody for him. Nothing that I did holds any value to him. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A prenuptial agreement protects assets acquired before the marriage, so you need one way more than he does. Assets acquired during the marriage are thought to be equal, since one spouse supports the other to acquire said assets. So your boyfriend is a selfish idiot. He doesn't even have any damn assets. And he's saying that even when you're married, his work is his and his alone. Pretty much the opposite of what you know to be true. Girl, you can do better. Comment 2. A good prenup has been looked at by a lawyer from each party and has something in it for each party. Is that the case here? It's also usual that it protects assets that exist before the marriage. I'm not sure it is even possible to do what he is trying to do. Honestly, the prenup doesn't sound like the problem. It sounds like what you have there is a bit of a moron. That's the bigger problem. Now, for the update, thank you for sticking around for more of my story. After the breakup, I thought I'd find some peace, but life had other plans. My ex-boyfriend, let's call him Mr. X, decided he wasn't done with me yet. He went to my dad crying, begging for a second chance at the logistics project. My dad, ever the soft-hearted businessman, agreed, but with one condition. Mr. X had to apologize to me and make it right. I was furious when I found out. My dad, who I thought understood me, was giving Mr. X another chance? It felt like a betrayal. But then I saw an opportunity. If Mr. X wanted to prove himself, I'd make sure he really had to work for it. I took over the logistics project myself. I had the experience, after all, from my transportation company. I worked day and night, improving the efficiency, cutting costs, and bringing in new clients. The project was booming under my leadership, and Mr. X was left in the dust. Meanwhile, Mr. X's debts were catching up to him. The loans he took out for flight training were massive, and without my dad's support or a job, he was drowning. He came to me, asking for help, but I turned him away. I told him to figure it out on his own, just like he wanted me to be a stay-at-home wife and give up my dreams. But the real twist came when I found out about Mr. X's secret. He had been seeing another woman while we were together, someone from his father's congregation. It was a scandal waiting to explode, especially with his father's reputation as a religious leader. I could have exposed him, ruined his reputation and his father's, but I didn't. Instead, I went to the woman and told her everything. She was shocked, angry, and hurt. Together, we confronted Mr. X and his father. The woman decided to leave the congregation, and Mr. X was left to face the consequences of his actions. In the end, my dad saw the truth. He apologized for not believing in me and for thinking Mr. X deserved another chance. He handed over full control of the logistics project to me, and I've been running it successfully ever since. As for Mr. X, he's still trying to pick up the pieces of his life. His debts are still there, his reputation tarnished, and his dreams of being a big businessman are further away than ever. I've learned a lot from this whole ordeal. I've learned that I'm strong, capable, and I don't need a man to define my worth. I've learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and letting the other person watch.